let's listen to Downward Spiral, the opening track off Danny Brown's 2016 album, Atrocity Exhibition.
I'm sweating like I'm in a rave. Been in this room for 3 days. Think I'm hearing voices. Paranoid and think I'm seeing ghosts. Oh shit. Phone keep ringing, but I cut that shit off. Only time I use it when I tell a dealer drop it off. Had a threesome last night, ain't matter what it costs. Couldn't get it hard, tried to stuff it in soft. Had to fuck them both raw. Keep my fingers crossed. Been grinding on my teeth so long it's swelling up my jaw. Nothing on but my bathrobe and pinky ring. The worst nightmare for me is a normal drink. And I learned anything. It's don't nod off with your motherfucking cigarette burning. Knocking on the door, but I won't answer. Residue on mirrors, JoJo dancer. And it's the downward spiral. Gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out, cause it's the downward spiral. I gotta figure it out, out. Gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out. Everybody say you got a lot to be proud of. Been hard this whole time, don't realize what I done. Cause when I'm all alone, feel like no one care. Isolate myself and don't go nowhere. Smoking blunt after blunt till my eyes burning. Hennessy straight, got my chest like a furnace. Drowning frustrations in the ocean of sin. Thinking irrational, I have no emotions. Cold, cold world, some might say. Freezing on the snow, brain feel a bit frostbit. No shit, don't know the last time I ate, but I eat these fucking rappers like fucking last steak. Oh, death, fuck, feel like I am. You never know, one day you're here, the next you're gone. So I put it up in these songs. Stuck. And it's the downward spiral. Gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out, stuck. Cause it's the downward spiral. I gotta figure it out, out. Gotta figure it out, out. I gotta figure it out, stuck.
The first thing you'll notice about the song is probably Danny Brown's unique delivery, which is very squeaky, high-pitched, and almost squealy. And in an interview, Danny has stated that he feels that it makes songs more lighthearted and funny when he's talking about things that are extremely serious and life-threatening. This first verse starts out with a lot of symptoms. He mentions sweating, paranoia, and hysteria, which are all symptoms of withdrawals. Even an hour without a hit of any substance can start withdrawals, depending on whatever. And when going through withdrawals, people who are addicted will often isolate themselves, not leaving their rooms for days at a time. There's a certain shame, there's a certain physical sickness, and this potent shame is what comes with withdrawal and coming down from a high. Danny then goes in to describe a sex scene that's affected by drugs. He couldn't get it hard, tried to stuff it in soft, and then he describes having sex without a condom. He's describing erectile dysfunction, which is just one of many side effects of depressants, along with difficulty to orgasm and a loss of arousal, while stimulants, like cocaine, for example, cause the opposite, with increased libido and random erections. The short here, though, is that under the influence of drugs, sex becomes very, very dangerous. Unprotected sex and unconsensual sex are unfortunately very, very common. And something that's somewhat common in poverty and people living on the streets who are addicted was that they will use drugs to stay up all night. Specifically women, or especially women, will use drugs all night in order to stay up and stay safe in a way. He then continues, I've been grinding on my teeth so long it's swelling up my jaw. Clenching your jaw along with other muscles is a common side effect of MDMA, more commonly known as Molly or ecstasy. This is something that with the long terms of addiction can become worse and worse. Grinding your teeth for a little bit is not a problem, but over months and years, then it can become really unhealthy. And along with clenching your jaw is something that a lot of people do, but over an extended period of time, it'll start to swell. He continues, your worst nightmare for me is a normal dream. Addiction becomes a sort of all-encompassing lifestyle, with every second having to do with addiction, either feeling really good on the high or coming down and feeling bad. And it engulfs people's entire lives. This cycle of good, bad, the goods get shorter and shorter and the longs get longer and longer. And every single day is this nightmarish cycle of getting by. And to people who haven't experienced it, nightmares are the only comparison. He goes on to say that if he's learned anything, it's to not nod off with the cigarette burning. Many different substances, especially depressants like alcohol, cannabis, and opioids, which are all extremely addicting, can cause people to quote-unquote nod off, or more accurately, slip in and out of consciousness and sleep. And falling asleep with cigarettes in hand cause hundreds of fires a year and is extremely dangerous. Tobacco is obviously extremely addicting, but ends up being a way that a lot of people come down. People who use harder drugs will usually go back to just smoking cigarettes, and that'll be part of their rehab. But many people who are addicted will smoke cigarettes, and it can become extremely dangerous. He goes on to talk about residue on mirrors, which is referring to when doing cocaine, a drug that Danny is referencing hundreds of times throughout his entire discography. Many cut cocaine on mirrors because it's a smooth, flat, and non-porous surface, and it's easy to spot when any is left over on a mirror. It's extremely common, especially throughout popular media like movies and songs. They will show this scene or describe it. And then he says JoJo Dancer. JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling, is a 1986 movie by Richard Pryor. It's about a famous actor who becomes famous and then struggles with heavy use of drugs and womanizing, which together destroy all relationships in his life. And it's, while not confirmed, many believe that Danny has a certain connection to this movie. The hook comes in and Danny says it's a downward spiral. He's got to figure it out. I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out. This downward spiral is a common idea that you'll see. Many will start using because they are struggling somehow, whether it be depression or childhood trauma, anxiety, mixtures, any sort of problem you can think of in your life. So then they turn to substances to soothe these feelings. What becomes substance use will usually go further into substance abuse, and at a certain point it becomes an addiction with withdrawals, and it's this downward spiral where those substances become an addiction and send them further down into worse situations or feelings, but the only way their body knows how to soothe it is to use, and it becomes this downward spiral that gets worse and worse and worse. In the beginning of verse 2, Danny starts off with saying that people say he has a lot to be proud of, but he's been high this whole time and he doesn't really realize what he's done. This album comes 4 years after his hit album, XXX, and at this point, Brown has proven himself in the rap game to some extent. But because Danny is always high, he doesn't really have the capacity to really settle and appreciate his success. And it's something that's common, no matter what substance people are addicted to. There's this kind of distance and kind of not really living in the moment because you're thinking of your next hit or your next time. And so it could become not really living in the moment, not enjoying the things around you. He goes on to say, because when I'm alone, I feel like no one cares. I isolate myself and I don't go anywhere. Which, if we remember in the first verse, he says that he's been in this room for 3 days and he's talking about going through withdrawals. And these are the kind of situations that many people who are addicted will go through, where they need someone in their life, but they will end up isolating themselves heavily. He goes on to say, smoking blunt after blunt till my eyes start burning, Hennessy straight got my chest like a furnace. It's actually extremely common to see mixing of multiple substances with people who are addicted. And in the particular case of Danny, these are the fourth and fifth different substances that we've seen referenced just in this one song. It's extremely common. While usually we'll start with cannabis and alcohol, you can, like, multiple addictive substances end up in many people's lives at once. Even people who aren't addicted in such a damaging way will smoke weed with their friends and then go drink on the weekends. And if that becomes a weekly thing, you are mixing many different substances in your body, and it can be extremely dangerous over an extended period of time. And also important to note is that we see a tolerance for both substances. He's smoking blunt after blunt almost nonstop because one or two no longer affects him deeply in the same way, and drinking straight Hennessy instead of mixed drinks because the alcohol he doesn't feel it as much as he would have. He continues, drowning frustrations in an ocean of sin, thinking irrational, and I have no emotions. Cold, cold world, some might say freezing on the snow, brain feel a bit frostbit. These are all the mental causes and effects of addiction and substance abuse. He says the feeling that he has to drown any frustrations and bad emotions with alcohol or with any other substance, because when you're addicted to anything, it feels that that's the only way out. This can be something that's hard to understand or grasp for people who haven't struggled with addiction, because it's like, well, you're going back to it. But to the people in those situations, it feels like it's the only thing that they know. It's thinking about their body and the way that it affects their brains. Their brain thinks this is the only way that I can feel better because it's that addictive. And he says his brain is feeling a bit frostbit, like slow. There's not a lot of blood going to it, very cold. When high, actions and thoughts are impaired and often irrational. And when sober, addiction creeps in and tries to justify any mistakes and feelings you may have had. For example, looking back at a terrible experience with more of a positive outlook and thinking it wasn't that bad. This is something that's extremely, extremely common to people who use any sort of substance, where, like, you can end up with a broken arm because you were drunk, or you can end up like yelling something on the streets when you're on stronger drugs. But you can look back and be like, well, it was fine. It wasn't that bad. I was free. I felt independent, or anything like that. This is something that's extremely common. He says that he's nauseous and doesn't know the last time he ate. Irregular eating is a side effect of cocaine and heroin, especially, but many different substances have irregular eating. and weight gain or loss during their time using. He goes on to describe a bar dissing other rappers, but then he says, on death row, feel like I am, you never know, one day you're here, the next you're gone, so I put it all up in these songs. Danny Brown has admitted many times throughout his discography and in interviews that he contemplated suicide when writing Atrocity Exhibition in 2015 and 2016. Many people who are addicted to substances, whether on the streets of Albuquerque or in Hollywood Hill mansions, will have suicidal thoughts or commit. The downward spiral that Danny is talking about and describing in this song is a cycle of pain that feels inescapable. It feels like the only way out is to not get addicted or to get sober, get clean. But for many people, that is such a big jump. Their entire life revolves around it. So telling people just to get clean and just to get sober is almost, it can feel impossible. And this suicidal thoughts is kind of the bottom part of this downward spiral. And dozens in Albuquerque, hundreds in New Mexico, thousands across the nation, and even more internationally will feel the bottom of this downward cycle, the suicidal thoughts.